Development that could perhaps address the issue of jobs in the country. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today has announced the Agnipath scheme. He's called it a historic move. So what happens through this scheme? The Armed Forces is looking at inducting around 45,000 soldiers for a 4-year tenure. These soldiers will be called Agniveers, and the scheme is going to allow women to enroll too. After the tenure, after those 4 years, 25% of the inductees will be retained and they will join the regular forces. The Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pande, is saying that these Agniveers will be fully integrated with the regular cadre. People between the ages of 17 and a half to 21 will be inducted, and the first batch is scheduled to be ready by July next year. So that is the timeline. The scheme aims to raise the youthful profile of the armed forces. At least that is the government's hope. If the project succeeds, it's going to also drastically cut the annual revenue and the pension bill for the forces. Remember, pension and salaries account for nearly half of India's defense budget. What did the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh say at the announcement of this scheme that they say is historic? Just listen in to the Defence Minister as the scheme was announced.
भारतीय सेनाओं को विश्व की बेहतरीन सेना बनाने के लिए उस दृष्टि से आज कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑन सिक्योरिटी ने भी एक ऐतिहासिक फैसला किया है। आज का अग्निपथ नामक एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव योजना हम ला रहे हैं, जो हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस में ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव चेंजेस लाकर उन्हें फुली मॉडर्न और वेल इक्विप्ड बनाएगी। अग्निपथ योजना में भारतीय नौजवानों को बतौर अग्निवीर आर्म्ड फोर्सेस में सेवा का अवसर प्रदान किया जाएगा।
There are several issues that emerge with this big announcement about the Agnipath scheme, and it's a new scheme. Let's break this down with Manoj Joshi, a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, ORF. Let's understand why the government felt the need to bring in this new tour of duty for young officers. Mr. Joshi, good evening. A very warm welcome to India Tonight here at ET Now. Clearly, India's new short-term recruitment policy for Indian youth to serve in the armed forces is coming at a crucial time where the paucity of jobs in India has been this long-standing problem. My first question is, do you think this can help resolve that problem? And if so, to what extent do you think it can do it?
You know, if you're, frankly, my first response to you would be that this, to me, at first sight, appears to be yet another masterstroke of the government. Okay? And we know that the previous masterstrokes, what they've been all about. Now, if you talk of employment, if you say that 50,000 people will be recruited, does it mean that, you see, because that's the level of recruitment that already exists. Every year, 40 to 50,000 young men are recruited into the armed forces. So to say that this is going to expand employment, I'm not so sure. It's another form of employment. At the end of the day, the compulsion of the government is economic. As you have pointed out, that half the defense budget has been taken up by salaries and pensions. So this is really meant to address that. All the rest of it, whatever the minister is saying and whatever all the senior officers are saying, is window dressing. There is an economic problem, and that needs to be addressed.
Okay, so you're saying that this is only possibly an economic problem that is getting addressed by the government. You're calling it a masterstroke. We need to understand that a little better. Even if it comes to addressing the capital expenditure issues that the government is facing, and if it is an economic problem that the government is trying to address, then how well is it going to be able to do it with this scheme?
See, when I said masterstroke, I hope you understood that I was being sarcastic.
Yes, I did. I did, clearly. But I need to kind of help. I need to ask you to break it down for us, what it will achieve.
No. See, from the economic point of view, fine. Meaning you will be able to reduce the pension bill, etc. Now, the point is that the consequences, what about the consequences? And the consequences are quite severe. You're seeing that, we have a professional army. Maybe it's a bit too large. Maybe it could have been cut down. There were other options of dealing with it. For example, I'm not sure you know that the Indian Army is 1.3 million strong, and the PLA is just about 900,000 strong. So the thing is that the army needed to cut down its numbers, reduce the salary bill, reduce the pension bill, but it has not been able to do it. So maybe there were other ways of meeting this issue. The problem with the Agniveer and the Agnipath is that there are several issues there. For example, they say that they're going to reduce the training period will be reduced, I think, to 22 weeks maybe. But the thing is that the normal, when you get a Jawan from the village, it's 44 weeks of basic training. After the basic training, you get into dealing with a weapon system you want to deal with. For example, if you're a tank guy, you get into a tank, you understand what a tank gun is, you'll have to understand what a computer is, you get all that training. That takes another 6 months. But with this Agniveer scheme, Agnipath, all that is not there, because so far they've only said that they're going to do half the basic training that exists. So you're going to land up with semi-trained people at a time when all armed forces require more and more, or are using more and more sophisticated weapons and systems, which require probably longer duration of training. So you break down figures, because right now we're just looking at the thing. You break down figures, you find that even the kind of service that we're talking of, that the normally it takes 3 to 4 years for a Jawan, a young man from the village, to become.
But in a way, Mr. Joshi, are you saying that the downside to this, there are more disadvantages than advantages with this new scheme, as much as it's perhaps, like you're suggesting, a repackaging of what we already have?
See, what I'm saying is that you need a professional army. You need an army which is as good as any in the world. You need an army which is trained up to to be first class with the kind of weapons and equipment it has. With this, you're yourself diluting the training standards right from the beginning. Now you're going to have people for 4 years. Do you know that every year the people in the armed forces, they get annual leave, 2 months of annual leave, casual leave. If you count everything, the actual period that person will be serving, you have your training, let's say 6 months, and probably he'll be getting another 6 months of annual leave and casual leave.
So you're calling it a repackaging, and you're saying that the package is not even long enough to service the kind of requirement that the defense forces would require. I get that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
From the people who this is directed towards, and saying that this is going to have a more youthful approach, how do you kind of address that particular reason why the government is going after it, the reason that they point out? There could be, and for argument's sake, from taking away from what you're saying, there could be people who would look at Agnipath as a way to build their resume. Do you think that's particularly bad?
You're talking of an ordinary Jawan. You're talking of people who've come out from the village, who probably had a 12-year school leaving degree. Okay. Now you join the armed forces, but that is what already happens, in the sense that I joined the armed forces, and after maybe some period I leave, then maybe I'm absorbed into the paramilitary forces. But the point is that I can't see why anyone in the private sector is going to hire someone who has joined the army at the age of 17, 18, 19, serve for another maybe 3 years there, what are the skills that have been picked up? So you say, okay, the guy is more disciplined, but he knows how to use weapons. Now you need weapons, you'll probably become a bigger problem for the in your social environment. But weapons alone is not the skill that you require. And leave aside weapons, meaning you could say that the guy is technically trained, but he's not going to be technically fit. You don't give him enough time to develop technical skills that he could apply in civilian life later on.
Yes, and also the point that you're making that more weapons, if you're talking about that, that works against the government's aim, perhaps, to address the capital expenditure issues that it's facing, the economic reasons. They can't end up spending more in the bargain. So that beats the purpose, at least that one purpose that you very correctly addressed. But we'll have to leave it there, running out of time. But thanks very much for your perspective on this, Manoj Joshi. Perhaps there will be more instances where we can talk about how the government is trying to address employment issues and not just through repackaging of what already exists in the system. Thanks very much for joining us this evening.